Hey guys, JV here bringing you another Destiny 2 tips and tricks video, and this time we're continuing our Leviathan guide with one of the easiest parts of the raid. Just a heads up, this is your place for daily Destiny 2 content here on YouTube, so hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for Destiny 2 tips and tricks videos. Today I'm going to show you how to complete the Gauntlet in the Leviathan raid. As long as everyone can follow instructions in your group, this part should be simple, so let's take a look. The overall objective is to escort psionic charges through the Gauntlet. Now, there are so many instructions and things I have to explain, and there is zero room for mistakes, but this is the overall goal we're shooting for with this encounter, so keep that in mind. For the Gauntlet, you'll need to split your raid group into two main teams. One is responsible for running the charges and jumping through the Gauntlet, so we'll call them the running team. There are two runners for this encounter, so choose two guardians that are comfortable with jumping puzzles. The other team is responsible for standing on plates, shooting adds, and shooting the arrows, so we'll call this one the plate team, comprised of the other four guardians in your raid group. And generally speaking, I've found the running team to be a lot easier, but it does require a lot of jumping, and if you're not good at that, it's probably best to stay on the plate team. Now let's talk about each team's individual duties and responsibilities. First, we're looking at the running team. In the beginning, I had no idea what was happening inside the Gauntlet because I was on plate team, but things were much easier once I knew what the running team was doing. Let's go ahead and talk about the arena for a second because it's very important to establish all of this information. So this giant circle, the arena, has four plates, one for each Cabal symbol, ones that we're used to from other encounters. So sun, dogs, chalice, and blades. Each member of the plate team is assigned to one of these, but the running team is responsible for two symbols that are side by side, which splits the arena in half, and I'm going to refer to these as our mini groups. You'll always want to remember what their mini groups are, and these groupings do not change, so if you memorize them, this is how they will always be. So the mini groups are dog and sun, that's one group, and then chalice and blades, that's the other, and within each of those groups you'll need to assign one running team member to each pairing. So for example, running guy 1 gets sun and dog, running guy 2 gets chalice and blades. This gives you your starting position, but also you'll need to remember these mini groups for a few other responsibilities that we'll get to in a minute here. So after all of the plates have been stepped on, the encounter will begin. At this point, all the running team needs to do is help kill adds within their mini group. So for the most part, the plate team should be able to handle themselves, but if anyone is a lower power level and you're running it for the first time, for example, the running team is there to assist their mini group. Once you begin, adds will appear from doors on either side of each plate, and this will go on for maybe 30 seconds. It's pretty simple, and then an elite centurion will appear. You'll hear a sound cue for that, so you'll know when it comes, and at this point the running team should head to the dog and chalice plates, again whichever one that you're responsible for within your mini group. Once each centurion is down, a psionic charge will appear below the arrows on dog and on chalice. This will never change. This is always where you will start, you know, when you're doing this phase. So within your mini groups, runner 1 will go and pick up the one below dog, and runner 2 will go and pick up the one below chalice. And I'm not sure if this is necessary, but my running teams always counted down from 3, 2, 1, go to pick ours up at the same time. At this point, you'll be teleported into the Gauntlet as part of the running team, and that marks the end of the first phase. So now we're in the next phase. Let's break down what exactly is going to happen in here. So what you're going to see is 4 sets of rings, 4 walls of rings, and each of them will be 3 by 3, and one of these rings will be lit red while the rest will be green. Our goal as part of the running team is to communicate to the plate team which ring is red, but the good thing is that all we care about is whether it's top, middle, or bottom. We only care about that axis. It doesn't matter if it's on the left or the right, just top, middle, or bottom. So what's also tricky about this is that each running team member needs to do callouts, but it's only for their mini group. You have to listen very carefully. Runner 1 in the beginning is calling out to their mini group on sun and dog, while runner 2 is calling out to their mini group on chalice and blades. And these callouts will be happening at nearly the same time. So as a runner, you'll need to be very clear and very loud when saying top, middle, or bottom. While these callouts are very important, what is the running team doing all this time? Well, once the barrier is lifted at the beginning, it's our job to call out the red ring once we see it, top, middle, or bottom, then run and jump through that same red ring. When the plate team does their job, that ring will turn green and an orb will appear. You'll need to hop through that ring, grab the orb, and continue on to the next set. You'll do this twice, the first 2 ring walls, and then the callouts will switch for the last 2 sets of rings. What I mean is, if you were calling top, middle, or bottom As runner 1 for sun and dog plate team now you'll be switching with runner 2. So if you were runner 1, now you'll be doing that for chalice and blades, and that team will have to know that you've switched. However, nothing really changes for you while you're running the gauntlet. You're still calling top, middle, or bottom, but after that second one, once the call out switch, be sure someone on the running team lets the plate teams know. My teams always say call out switch once we've passed the second set of rings. So continue on through the third and fourth ring walls until you see the finish line. There will be another orb there. Once you grab that, it'll teleport you back into the arena, and at this point the running team must take their psionic charges to the middle and slam them into these receptacle things in order to complete this phase. Now it's time to return to your original pairing, your original starting position, and repeat this process 2 more times. So now let's talk about the responsibilities of the plate team, the other 4 guardians that stay inside the arena the entire time. So like I said, each member should be assigned to 1 plate. The first phase is simple. Just kill the ads spawning on your sides and take out the centurion that spawns shortly afterwards. The best way to take care of centurions, by the way, is with your power weapon. Really any type that you feel comfortable with will do the job. And if you ever have any trouble, just call out to the running team member within your mini group assigned to you and they can help you. And above all else, do not die at this point. It's really easy, but any deaths pretty much mean you should wipe and restart the encounter, so stay alive. Once the centurions are down, remember that dog and chalice are first. That's where the psionic charges appear, and the dog and chalice plate members must step on their plate first and stay on it. Remember, these are the starting positions for our runners, and in order for them to do their jobs, you must be standing on your plate if you are dog or chalice plate person. The other plate guardians can just chill for right now. At this point, the runners will grab their charges and teleport into the gauntlet, which marks the end of the first phase. Next, the goal for the plate team is to listen to the runners' callouts and shoot the correct arrows, which is much easier said than done. This is where our mini groups that we defined in the beginning are super important, so let's recall what those are. Runner 1 is assigned to sun and dog plates, while runner 2 is assigned to blades and chalice. And so at the beginning, you stick to your mini group. So runner 1 calls out for sun and dog plates, while runner 2 calls out for blades and chalice plates. On the plate team, if you're assigned to dog or chalice at the beginning, that's how we start this whole thing, right? So you'll be shooting the 3 arrows pointing downward that are right in front of you, not anyone else's. However, if you're on sun plate within that mini group, you'll need to look over at the dog arrows. Within your mini groups, you're always shooting the same set of arrows. You're not shooting different arrows, of course, until it's time to switch. So if you're on blades, you'll need to look over at the other person in your mini group and look at their arrows, which would be chalice. Basically, look at the arrows of the other plate within your mini group. Now that we understand which arrows we're going to be shooting for, it's time to listen for the call out from your runner. You'll hear top, middle, or bottom, whichever one that they see. And of course, we have 3 arrows to choose from to shoot. Do not never shoot the position that you hear from your runner. That's the one that does not need to be touched whatsoever. Instead, the plate guardians must shoot the other 2, but you must decide who is shooting which arrow. Because again, the runner calls out the one that you don't shoot, so we have to figure out who is shooting the other 2. The easiest way to do this is to decide before you even start. So within your mini groups, again, that's going to be sun and dog together, and then blades and chalice together. Pick one person who is always going to shoot the higher arrow and one person who is always going to shoot the lower one. Once you determine this, you'll know exactly which arrows to shoot when given your call out. It doesn't seem that way, but let's just give an example here. Let's say that I'm on the sun plate. At the start of this phase, I turn to my left and look at dog arrows because once again, sun and dog are paired within this mini group. So my mini group has decided that no matter what the call out is, whatever we're shooting, me on the sun plate, I will be shooting the lowest arrow and the dog plate member will be shooting the highest arrow. So our runner goes through the gauntlet and calls out top. So this means that I will shoot the bottom arrow because I am always the lowest arrow, and the person on the dog plate will be shooting the middle arrow because that's the highest of the arrows that we can shoot because we can't shoot the top arrow. Another quick scenario, let's say that the runner calls out middle. That means that I would still shoot the bottom arrow because it's the lowest of the ones I can shoot, and dog plate team member would be shooting the top arrow. We never ever shoot the arrow in the position that our runner calls out. If that wasn't abundantly clear, I hope it is now. So if everyone shot the correct arrow, they will glow green, signaling that you all did it correctly. Once that happens, a Counselor Scion will appear. It's one of those that are immune to shots, so you'll need to run up and melee it, but it will appear below the arrows that were just shot. So for the first time, once again, that will be below Chalice and below Dogs every single time. It's the Dog and Chalice Guardian's responsibility to run up and melee them as quickly as possible. If you don't do that, you will fail. Next up, we're turning our attention to the other set of arrows in our mini group, which are Sun and Blades. That means that Sun and Blades Guardians need to step on their plates, and Dog and Chalice Guardians, the first ones that stepped on their plate, will need to turn and face the Sun and Blades arrows. So this is the same concept, just on another set of arrows within our mini group. So listen for the call out, shoot the correct arrows, then the Sun and Blades Guardians will need to melee their Scions. Now that we've done 2 rounds of arrows, the callouts will switch. Runner 1 was responsible for Sun and Dog plates because that's how the mini groups were set up, but now after the second set, they're responsible for calling out arrows for Blades and Chalice, and Runner 2 now calls out for Sun and Dog. So basically the runners switch among the mini groups, and the runners again should remind the plate team by saying call out switch after the second set of arrows. This can be a little confusing for the plate team, so the way I handle it if I'm on the plate team is to just whisper to myself the name of the runner that I'm supposed to be listening for, so I kind of block out the other voice. So I'm thinking runner 1, runner 1, then shoot my arrow. Then when it switches, runner 2, runner 2, runner 2, when I hear the call out, then shoot that arrow. Big thing to remember, we've already talked about it, but it's easy to forget. If you're on plate team, don't forget to melee your Scions that appear after standing on your plate. That's the only time they will appear. They won't appear if you didn't stand on your plate for that specific portion. So after the 4th set of arrows, the runners will teleport back and everyone will return to their starting positions to repeat phase 1. So do this 3 times until you reach the final phase. Just a heads up, not much changes between these phases, pretty much the same thing every time, but on the 3rd set of phases, the plates will move up and down when you're trying to shoot the arrows, and it's, you know, to throw the plate guardians off when they're trying to aim. It's not a big deal, but be prepared for that. So I pretty much explained the phases while discussing teams, but for extra clarity, let's do a quick rundown through each of the phases from start to finish, and of course, discuss the final phase that I haven't talked about yet. So all plate guardians must hop on their plate to start the encounter in the beginning. In phase 1, we need to kill ads and the centurion on each plate. The running team is just assisting within their mini groups, making sure that the plate team is staying alive. So after centurions are down, Dog and Chalice guardians first need to step on their plates. That happens every single time. Running team will run to Dog and Chalice plates respectively to grab their psionic charges. That's it for phase 1. Next, for phase 2, running team will enter the Gauntlet, identify the red rings, and call out top, middle, or bottom for the plate guardians within their mini groups. Runner 1 will call out for Sun and Dog, while runner 2 will call out for Blades and Chalice to start. Back in the arena, plate team will listen to callouts and shoot the Dog and Chalice arrows first according to their mini groups. Scions will spawn, Dog and Chalice guardians will melee them, then mini groups will turn to shoot Sun and Blades. After that cycle, running team will say call out switch, signaling the callouts will switch for the mini groups for the last 2 sets of arrows. Runners will return and slam their charges. Everyone will return to their starting positions to repeat the phases another 2 times. After the 3rd set of phases 1 and 2, we have phase 3 to finish this encounter, and this one is a bit strange. Once the runners slam their charges the 3rd time, everyone needs to head to the center of the arena where those weird kind of elephant trunk receptacles are. So 6 psionic charges will appear, and everyone needs to hold X or square to grab one. The entire raid team is then teleported into the Gauntlet. This phase is very similar to the running team in phase 2, what they do the entire time, except there are 4 orbs in each wall of rings. Since there are 6 of you running, only 4 people will be able to grab an orb, but all 4 of the orbs must be grabbed. So you'll have a small amount of time before the phase starts, and you'll need to decide who is grabbing an orb, 4 people, and who is skipping orbs, which will be 2. Just like the running phase, there will be 4 sets of walls to run through, and you can rotate, deciding who is grabbing an orb and who isn't, but if anyone dies, make sure to grab their orb. The last thing you want to do is fight over an orb, jump through the same ring, and kill 2 people in the process. All the while, the ground will be moving up and down, pieces of the track will be missing. This is the real jumping puzzle. In the end, the goal is to have at least 3 people holding psionic charges make it to the finish line. Only half of you need to make it, and once they do, they'll be teleported back, and all you have to do is run and slam the charge into the middle to complete this encounter. There is one big thing to consider, and it's something that will probably throw you off the first time it happens, but if someone happens to die early on, like really early, like before the second ring wall, phase 3 must be completed before their revive timer hits 0. If it runs out, it'll wipe everyone and you'll have to start from the beginning, and it really sucks. So try your very best not to die near the beginning of phase 3. The Gauntlet is one of those encounters that seems daunting at first, really complicated, right? It took me forever to explain it, but it becomes easy once you've gotten it down. Even still, one single mistake by anyone on either team, runners or plate guardians, means a complete wipe and reset. Honestly, it's probably more complicated to explain in this video than actually doing it in the game. But my goal was to try to explain it in a simple way that people who have never seen it before could understand, so I hope I was able to achieve that. Alright guys, today I showed you how to complete the Gauntlet encounter in the Leviathan raid. In the comment section below, tell me what you think about the Gauntlet. I'm pretty good with defined instructions that never change, and because of that, I feel like this is one of the easiest parts. So share your thoughts in the comment section below. Next time, we will cover more Destiny 2 here on the channel, so stay tuned for daily Destiny 2 tips and tricks videos. If you learned something new, remember to hit that like button and subscribe for lots of Destiny 2 content. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.